All right, let's dive right in. We're talking about a situation that has been completely turned on its head by some massive military strikes in 2024 and early 2025. And that is, of course, Iran's nuclear program. Yeah, we saw operations, like one codenamed Midnight Hammer, that were just a stunning display of force. We're talking B-2 stealth bombers flying these epic 37-hour missions, and for the first time ever in combat, they dropped these massive 30,000-pound bunker buster bombs. The goal was simple: cripple Iran's nuclear infrastructure. But here's where it gets really strange and, frankly, pretty dangerous. It's a paradox. How is it that this all-out effort to destroy the program seems to have actually made it faster? That's the big question we're tackling today. How did all that destruction somehow end up compressing Iran's nuclear timeline and just forcing the whole thing deeper underground? All right, let's get into it. To really get our heads around this paradox, we first have to understand the stakes. What does Iran actually have right now? And why is it so close, tantalizingly close to the finish line? So first things first, you have to understand this one key term: nuclear threshold state. That's what Iran is now. And what does that mean? Well, it means they haven't actually built a bomb yet. But, and this is the crucial part, they've done all the hard work. They've got the science, they've got the materials, they've got the machines all lined up, ready to go. And this number right here is at the absolute heart of the crisis: 60%. Iran has a big and growing stockpile of uranium enriched to 60% purity. And trust me, that specific number is what's giving world leaders nightmares. So why is 60% the magic number? Well, here's the thing about nuclear physics. The really, really hard part is getting uranium enriched up to 60%. That takes a ton of time and effort. But that last little jump, from 60% to 90%, which is what you need for a weapon, that's actually the easiest, fastest part of the whole process. It's like they've run the entire field, and now they're on the 1-yard line. And what makes this speed possible is a huge leap in their technology. They've basically gone from an old clunker to a sports car. They've ditched the old, slow, unreliable IR-1 centrifuges and brought in these advanced models like the IR-6. And this is a total game changer. These new machines can enrich uranium something like 10 times faster than the old ones. So what does all this tech actually mean in the real world? It completely changes something called the breakout timeline. That's the time it would take them to make enough fuel for one bomb. Back into the old nuclear deal, the estimate was about a year, 12 months. Today, with all these new centrifuges humming away, that timeline has just collapsed. We're talking a matter of weeks, or for just one bomb, maybe even days. Okay, but how on earth did we get here, right? This whole crisis didn't just pop up overnight. No, it's the result of decades of this hidden shadow war, full of sabotage, spies, and even assassinations. And you're not going to believe the irony here. The whole program, its roots, actually go back to the 1950s, with help from, wait for it, the United States. Seriously, under Eisenhower's Atoms for Peace program, the U.S. gave Iran its first research reactor. They even trained their first nuclear scientists. So without meaning to, they laid the very foundation that the whole program is built on today. Then, in the 2000s, this covert war just exploded. You had the legendary Stuxnet virus, this wild cyber attack that secretly told centrifuges to spin so fast they literally tore themselves apart. You had a series of assassinations taking out key Iranian scientists. And then it all peaked with this unbelievable heist in 2018, where Mossad agents basically broke into a warehouse in Tehran and walked out with Iran's entire secret nuclear archive. The political fallout from that was just massive. But here's the thing, for all the spy movie stuff, the shadow war didn't stop the program. And because it didn't work, it led directly to the next, much more visible phase: the massive military strikes of 2025, like Operation Midnight Hammer. And the star of that show was this absolute monster of a bomb, the GBU-57 MOP. We're talking 30,000 pounds, and this was the first time it was ever used in a real fight. Its one and only job? To smash through hundreds of feet of rock and dirt to hit Iran's most protected sites, like the Fordo facility, which is literally built inside a mountain. So, did it work? Well, right after the strikes, the headlines were pretty dramatic. U.S. officials were saying the program was totally obliterated, set back by maybe 2 years. But then the dust settled, and the more sober intelligence reports started coming in. painting a very, very different picture. The real setback? Probably just a few months. The deep underground sites were damaged, sure, but not destroyed. And this might be the most important detail of the whole story. The intelligence strongly suggests that Iran moved its most valuable asset, that big stockpile of 60% enriched uranium, to some secret location before the strikes even happened. Think about that. If that's true, it means the main target of the entire operation was already gone before the first bomb even fell. So, what do you do after you've just been hit by the world's biggest conventional bomb? Well, Iran's response brings us right back to that paradox we started with, because what they did next reveals a very clear, very calculated shift in their strategy. What they're doing is pretty clever, actually. They're basically trading their old, vulnerable sites for new, super resilient ones. So on one hand, you see them just abandoning damaged places like Natanz. But on the other hand, they are digging deeper and building faster than ever. They're building brand new, hardened tunnels, like this place called Pickaxe Mountain, to assemble centrifuges, and they're quickly rebuilding other sites for potential weapons tests. And this new reality on the ground, a program that's been hit hard but is also moving faster, has created a total mess for diplomats. It's a dangerous strategic deadlock, and nobody seems to know how to break it.
And part of the problem is that even the closest allies can't agree on what to do next. You've got the US, which mostly prefers a strategy called deterrence by denial. That's all about building up defenses to make sure an attack would fail. It's a lower risk approach. But then you have Israel, which tends to favor deterrence by punishment. Their view is more about inflicting direct pain, destroying infrastructure, and they're willing to accept a higher risk of a bigger conflict.
And while they argue, diplomacy is just stuck. It's a dead end. Direct talks between the US and Iran went nowhere. They both wanted completely different things. The UN's nuclear watchdog, the IAEA, has basically said they're flying blind now. They've lost that continuity of knowledge, which means they can't actually verify if the program is peaceful anymore. And now you have European powers threatening to snap back all the old UN sanctions, which feels like a real last-ditch effort. But there's another huge piece to this puzzle, and that's the incredible pressure the regime is under at home. I mean, we're talking about things like severe water shortages, rolling blackouts. Their entire healthcare system is apparently on the verge of collapse. One report said 80% of pharmacies are near bankruptcy. And all of this is stirring up some very real anger and dissent among the population. And so that leaves us with the big final question, doesn't it? Can a regime that is crumbling from the inside, dealing with all these crises at home, really afford to keep pouring resources into a super high-risk nuclear program? A program that pretty much guarantees more conflict with the rest of the world? That tension between what it needs to fix at home and what it wants to achieve abroad, that's going to define everything in the year ahead. And it's a choice that will have huge consequences for all of us.